Hello and welcome to my Ultra Running Diaries. There are a couple of things I want to go through quickly in this first video. So the first thing I want to do is just give you a little bit of insight into the Lakeland 100 itself and what I'm actually doing. And then there are three questions which I'm always asked whenever I talk about this event or ultra running in general. So I just want to run through those questions really quickly as well. So let's crack on. So the Montane Lakeland 100 is an annual 105-mile running race which takes place every year on the last weekend of July. It starts in Coniston, which is in the southwest of the Lake District. It then heads north along Buttermere towards Keswick and goes to the Dalmain Estate, which is sort of near Penrith. This location is roughly halfway around the course, and it's where the 50-mile runners in the Montane Lakeland 50 join the race the following morning. The 105 miles starts at 6 p.m. on the Friday night. The 50 then starts at 10 or 10:30 on the Saturday morning. From Dalmain, it goes past Pooley Bridge along the eastern side of Ullswater, ultimately heading towards Ambleside and back to Coniston, and finishes in the same place that it started. The 100 contains about 6,200 metres of elevation gain and loss. To give you a bit of context on that, Everest is around about 8,800, 8,900 metres. There's a 40-hour cut-off for the 100-mile race and 24 hours for the 50-mile race. Both events are self-navigated, so things like going and recceing the route beforehand are highly recommended. You're also provided with, and it's mandatory that you have with you at all times, two items: a map of the route, pre-marked map of the route, and a guidebook which gives you just general directions around the different sections of the course. So as I said, three key questions always come up whenever I talk about this race or other ultra marathons with anyone. So I'm going to go through each of those questions one by one. They all have a short answer and a long answer, so I'll give you the short answer and then I'll just elaborate on each one a little bit afterwards. So question one: do you eat? How do you eat? What do you eat? Generally stuff about food. So short answer, yes, you do eat a lot. Ultramarathons are essentially just eating competitions. So how do you eat? There are different strategies which different people will employ depending on their own personal preferences, what they're aiming for. So those trying to win it, going for kind of sub 24 hours, sub 20 hours. I think the record is about 19 hours, 10 minutes, will have very different nutrition strategies to people who are just trying to get in under the 40-hour time limit. So for me, I have a mixture. So there are things I'll carry with me, such as gels. So I have caffeinated gels and non-caffeinated gels. Generally I use Mountain Fuel. So generally, pretty much always use Mountain Fuel. Also have carb mixtures to put into drinks bottles. These, again, Mountain Fuel, I think it's about 40 grams of carbs in each one of these. Yeah, about 40 grams per serving, one of those. So there's a good way just to keep yourself topped up as you go. I also have caffeine bullets. These are quite low calorie wise, but obviously have caffeine in you, give you a little bit of a boost as you go around. And then you'll also carry some solid food, not a huge amount, and you can top up when you get to aid stations as well. There are aid stations throughout the course. I will generally take on solid food more at aid stations than in between. So they'll have stuff like cakes, crisps, biscuits, flapjacks, fruit, and some hot food as well. So again, on your mandatory kit, things that you have to have with you at all times. You have a solid non-collapsible cup, so that's good obviously for stuff like tea and coffee. Also for, like, they'll have stews and chilies and stuff that are just easy to eat and digest. They'll also have other things, like some of the checkpoints will have like hot dogs, toasties, things that are a little bit more enticing. And it's also mandatory to have one of these, a spoon, again, so that you can eat with it. So yeah, that's food. Yes, you do have to, well, yes, you don't have to, but yes, you do eat, and you eat a lot, and there are various different options. Question number 2 is, do you sleep? When do you sleep? How do you sleep? And again, it depends on people at the front. Absolutely no chance of sleeping. People who are out there for 40 hours may well be. Ideally, I won't be sleeping at all, but I've never run this distance before, so I don't know. Things can change. In terms of where do you sleep, how do you sleep, there's no set place to sleep. You can get to an aid station and just kind of sit down in a chair, or stick your head on a table and try and get a few minutes sleep there. Or doing the 50 last year, I did see some people who was going past who were on the doing the 100, just sleeping by the side of the trail. So it's an option, but it's ideally not one that I will be taking up. Question 3, last one for today. Do you run it all? No. Absolutely not. Whether you're going for 20 hours or 40 hours, you just cannot physically keep running for the whole duration of that. You're going up and down mountains, you're on rough trails for a big portion of it. It's just not realistic to expect to run the whole thing. People have different strategies for when they run and when they walk. Obviously, depending on how fast they are will depend on the balance, the ratio of running to walking. Most people will have some kind of strategy around walking up hills and trying to run flats and downhills, and then the further you get into the race, the more that'll go out the window, and the more walking will just come into it as you get mentally and physically tired and run down. So yeah, no, won't be running it all. I think when you look at, I think the world record on a treadmill for 100 miles is around about 12 hours or something. That may have been run the whole thing, but so you don't have to walk into aid stations and refill stuff at that point. You could have someone just handing stuff to you over a treadmill. But they may have, I imagine they would have played about with the speed buttons a bit, potentially gone down to a walk. I don't know, but for me, absolutely will not be running 100% of it, and I imagine that is the same for 100% of the field out there. Only about 50% people finish the Lakeland 100, never mind run the whole thing, so completely out of the question for me. So those are the 3 main questions, or 3 most common questions. As I said, I have had quite a lot more questions since I've kind of asked what people wanted to hear about, and I will try to cover those in future videos. What I'm going to try and do is have a kind of like a diary, as I said right at the start of this video, of what I'm doing in training, why I'm doing it. It's kind of a bit of a log journal, so people can follow along and get an idea of what's involved in training for events like this. And I'll try and cover the different questions I've had at relevant points within those. So different types of training I'm doing will obviously link into different questions, and about the types of training and nutrition and foot care was one that people have mentioned as well, so I'll try and cover those in future videos. If you have got any more questions, then just stick something in the comments below. or just send me a message on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, whatever, and I will try and cover those at the relevant points. And at some point, you never know, if these get popular, I might do some little Q&As and stuff as well. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Please do hit subscribe at the bottom down there somewhere. If you've got any questions, as I say, stick them in the comments or just reach out, give me a shout, and I will speak to you next time.